So Ethel says, what's the best for one to choose from the following? Scenario A coal house on 350 square meters in a high density, electricity and water services are available. Or option 2, a low density stand in a prime location, which is 1,200 square meters on the highway. Both properties are selling at the same value of 22,000 US dollars. So she says, I have a client facing two options and requires options on which to choose. So this is very, very interesting, but it brings us back to our concept of why do people build or buy houses in the first place. So just to take you back a bit, why do you build or buy a house? The main reason for building something or for building a house or a structure is not for you to stay in it, because you can still live somewhere even if it's not your own place. So that brings us to the major reason why we should be building or buying properties. And this reason is building equity. So here's what happens. Whenever you are building a property, you are not only building a place to stay in or somewhere to live in. In actual sense, you are actually building equity for you to leverage on if you are to grow your initial capital or your initial expenditure. So in a business sense, that's why we should be building houses, right? To build equity so that in the future we can leverage on those properties. So we are building properties so that we can increase the asset value on our balance sheet. That's the sole reason of building a property. It's not only to stay in. Check out this scenario. It's very expensive to build properties. So let's say you've got a lot of money and you build something for 1 million. And if you are building a property or a house for $1 million, it means that you are not broke. Neither are you in the threshold of poor individuals, right? You are somewhere in the middle class to the upper class. So why then do you build? Because with $1 million, you can still rent for the rest of your life, right? Let's take a real life example. If you are to rent a property or a house in the Brook or in Borodale, it's somewhere north of $2,000. And if you do the calculations, you divide 2,000. So if you are to pay rentals for the next 42 years, you spend $1 million. So the sole purpose of you building a $1 million house is not for you to find somewhere to live, because already you can afford to rent for the next 42 years, even if you're not going to be working anymore. But the sole reason of building a $1 million property is to build equity. Whether you are staying in that asset, but then that asset keeps on appreciating and then it gains equity. 5 years down the line, after your completion of that project, it's no longer 1 million, it's probably 2 million. So we are building properties, we are building houses, not only for us to stay in those houses. The construction cost alone covers a lot of years. So for it to make sense, we have to be building for another reason, which is building equity. So each time you are building a house, you're not just building somewhere to stay, you're building equity. So now back to our scenario. Now it comes back to which between the two gains more equity over a short period of time. So what you will realize is that a coal house in a high density place doesn't gain much equity, gains very minimum in as far as equity is concerned. But a property, be it a piece of land in a prime location, right, gains more equity over time. Over a year, it gains 15, 20, 30% in as far as equity is concerned. So it makes more business sense to buy a piece of land in a prime location, because it will gain equity and it will leverage you. And besides, there is more quality construction happening in prime areas as opposed to locations which are like high densities, right? In prime locations, that's where the people with the money are, and that's where most of the high-end, the quality development happens. So it makes more sense to buy a piece of land in a prime location because it gains more equity over time. So even if you buy it and you relax, the money that you have invested in is gaining, it's working for you. It's working for you year by year, producing more and more. And when the time comes when you want to build on it, you are now building again on more equity and on more value. So you can still have more leverage, be it in selling it or in borrowing. So between the two scenarios, right, if you have somewhere to stay, somewhere to live in, it makes more sense to buy a piece of land in a prime location because over time it gains more equity.